So we're expecting that we have around the same amount this year. And that means that each of you will have 10 or so applicants to review and judge. So you are going to be given credentials. If you already have credentials to log into our site right here under username and password, I won't be issuing you credentials, but if you're like, what are these? I don't have them. Don't worry, because when this call is over and I send out your judging sheet, you will be receiving your credentials as well. So everyone is going to get an email. Your email will have this judging sheet attached. Can everybody see that judging sheet? Okay. So this judging sheet will be attached to your email, and on the judging sheet, you'll have a list of names here on the left side of the spreadsheet. And those will be the people that you are responsible for judging. So in order to judge, what you will do is you will go to our website, you will type in your new credentials here in the username and password, and you'll click login. Once you're logged in, you're going to see across the top here, Nightingale Scholarship. You're going to go ahead and click Nightingale Scholarship. And then you actually are just going to hover over Nightingale Scholarship. When you hover over the Nightingale Scholarship, you're going to have Nightingale Scholarship Review Portal. You're also going to hover over that. And then you will finally click on 2021 Review Panel. So now here is everyone that so far has applied. This is where you're going to find your person that you need to judge using your spreadsheet. So for example, my spreadsheet says last name Armijo, first name Nicole. I'm going to go ahead and find Nicole Armijo on the portal. Here she is right here on the first page. If for some reason I was having a hard time finding her, I could go back to my spreadsheet and I can look. Nicole Armijo is RN to BSN. So I would make sure that the RN to BSN was the only thing selected here on the left side of the screen. That would just make it easier for me to find her because they're not in ABC order. And then I'm going to click Nicole Armijo. And now I'm going to have all the information that I need in order to score her. So we're going to go through score by score. And each scoring is broken up into a category. So we have the recommendation letters here. And the scoring system for that is up here on the top under recommendations. Then we have the essay. And again, scoring system is right here at the top under essay. And then it continues across the screen. The GPA, of course, doesn't have a scoring system. You're simply going to pull their GPA from their application and enter it there. So it continues across the screen with community service. Community service scoring is here. And then the need index, is also score system here. And then you're going to put your initials. So I would put SD, and then I would total up all the points across here. And then that's the total points that that person receives. And then I'm done with Nicole Armijo. And then I would go to number 3, or whoever on my list, and I would just continue. But I'm going to break this down a little bit further so that you guys fully understand the scoring system. Are there any questions before I start that? Yes.
What is recommendations 1 and 2?
Great question. So we'll break that down here in the next portion. Ultimately, recommendations are the recommendation letters. Essay is the essay that the person or the applicant writes about why they should be selected. Community service is anything that they list that they've done in the community or, for community service. And then the need index is kind of a breakdown of what the need for this scholarship is. So for example, some of these people are full-time providers to family members, they may not have actually ever received a scholarship before, etc. And so we'll go ahead and break that down now. Any further questions on that?
So does that mean one letter, first letter and second letter of recommendation? Is that what it means?
Correct. So each applicant is required to have 2 letters of recommendation. So that recommendation 1 is you're going to be scoring for the first letter of recommendation. Recommendation letter 2, you're going to score for the second letter of recommendation. And then for those, as well as with the essay, there's actually an option to just put a 0 if for some reason they don't have any of that stuff attached to their application. So just as a refresh, we went to Nightingale Scholarship, Nightingale Scholarship Review Portal, hovering, and then selecting 2021 review panel. Here are all of our applicants. And now I'm going to find Nicole Armijo so that I can score her. So first thing I'm looking for is recommendation letters. I'm going to scroll down to recommendation letter. Here we are, letters of recommendation number 1. I'm going to click it. So first off, I realize she has a letter of recommendation, so I'm not going to give her a 0. I am going to score her after I review this letter from Ellen. I'm going to pull back up my score sheet and I'm going to reference my recommendations right here. So she has a letter, so right off the bat, it's good. I've read the letter and Ellen had a lot of positive things to say about her, but I wouldn't necessarily say it was enthusiastic, so I'm going to give her a 1. Then I'm going to move on to recommendation letter number 2. I'm going to go back to my screen here. I'm going to click recommendation letter 2. I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to go back to my score sheet, and this time she was super enthusiastic, and I'm going to give her a 2. And then I'm going to move on to my essay portion. Going to go back to her application. I'm going to scroll on the side here, and I'm going to find the essay, which is just after the recommendation letters. And I'm going to read through her essay, and then I'm going to go back to my score sheet. I'm going to use the essay portion here to score her. So this is where you want to understand that she can get anywhere from 0 to 3 points. So first of all, she has an essay, so we are going to give her some points. Was she articulate and clear and concise? I'm going to say yes, so I'm going to give her 1 point. Was she focused on her service? So when you were reading through the essay, did you see her voice talking about what services she's doing for the community or within the nursing community? I'm going to say yes, so I'm going to give her another point, which now means she has 2 points. And then I'm also going to be thinking about when I look at her essay, was she focused on talking about herself, her achievements, what kind of things that qualify her to be a recipient of the scholarship? And just for training's sake, I'm going to say yes. So now she has 3 points. You can feel very free to give her a half a point or even a fourth of a point if you feel so inclined. Ultimately, you're just going to want to know that you will be totaling that score on the end here. So if you feel like giving a full point or a half point, that's up to you, but she can achieve anywhere from 0 to 3 points for the essay portion. All right, not last thing, there's a couple more things, but we're going to go to her GPA because that's the next thing. So ultimately for the GPA, you're going to have to select transcript of grades, again on the scrolling portion over here on the left. And then she uploaded her transcript. Please know for this that it does not have to be an official transcript. But if you notice something that looks off or it looks fake or forged or any of those things, bring that to my attention over here in the corner. You can just leave a note that says, please review GPA looks fake. Something really straightforward like that. And I'll just notice that, and then it'll allow me to go back and review. But overall, I think that shouldn't be an issue. So I will take her transcript. I'll scroll and find her GPA. Which is here. Okay, so our cumulative GPA is 3.62, and I'm going to go ahead and enter that on the scorecard here. All right, next is community service. So here is the community service portion and how you should score. I'm going to again scroll on the side here and I'm going to find community service. It's this right here, community school activities. And then you can see she's in the a founder of Pecos Cares. She volunteers with Medical Reserve Corps and she's assisting at COVID vaccination sites. So overall, she's doing 3 different things. I'm going to go back to my community service score here. So basically you want to kind of break it down as to, is there no involvement at all? Well, she has involvement, so we are going to give her at least 1 point. And then is she involved in community or school activities only, or is she involved in service-oriented and school and community activities as well? I would say she's involved in both because she's got the community service. Let's see. So she has that actually I would say is only community service. Does anybody disagree with that? Okay. So even though she's involved in a lot, it looks like there's nothing school related that she's involved in. So we're going to go ahead and give her a 1 because she's involved on the community service side. All right, so now her need index. We're going to go back to the spreadsheet here. And then this is where you're going to have to kind of select a few different things. So you're going to be selecting, are you currently employed? You're going to be selecting financial independence, and you're going to be selecting head of household, as well as financial assistance and dependents. So there's several different places you're going to have to refer to in order to determine what her need is. And then you're going to have to score her accordingly. So if she head of a household, she'll get 1 point for that. Employed for full-time or part-time, 1 point for that. If she has dependents, 1 point for that. And then the other portion is if there's something that you deem worthy of getting a 4th point, and then you would also need to make a note here on the side for that. So let's take a look at her. Okay, so she is not employed. I would say she's on unpaid maternity leave. Because she's on maternity leave, this is really something a little bit unique. Typically, you're just like, okay, is she employed or not? Full-time, part-time, 1 point or 0 points. But because she's on maternity leave, that's a little bit different. That does qualify her as not being employed, though, because she's not currently employed, if that makes sense. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So then we're moving on to financially independent from parents. Yes. Head of household. Yes. Financial assistance. She currently has financial aid. And then dependents. She has a daughter and a son. So you're going to go back to the sheet here and you're going to click 1 for head of household. So now that I'm thinking about the maternity leave thing, it's a really unique situation. So just because she's on maternity leave doesn't mean she's not employed, especially since school doesn't just run, the time that you're on maternity leave. So that one, whoever has Nicole Armijo, I'm going to make sure that I follow up with this. And in everybody's email with the score sheet, I'll be very clear about whether or not maternity leave qualifies as employed. Just
why would that be unpaid?
Say that again.
Why would that be unpaid?
So it's not unpaid. It's whether or not she's employed or not. I'm not sure why her maternity leave is unpaid. That would be up to her, the organization she works for. But ultimately, I think that she may qualify as employed, even though she's on maternity leave currently. And it doesn't really matter whether she's full-time or part-time, because ultimately, either way, she'll get 1 point. But when I send out these score sheets, I'll be very clear as to whether or not maternity leave equals up to being full-time or part-time employment. Does that make sense to everybody? Because I think I kind of misled you guys saying that it's not, when ultimately it probably is. So moving through the need index, she is head of household, so that's 1 point. I'm going to give her 1 point here. She has 2 dependents, but that's still just 1 point. So now she has 2 points. And then full or part-time, again, this comes down to the maternity leave status, but ultimately right now for training purposes, I'm going to say that that is employment, which means she now has 3 points. And then I'm going to go back to her application and I'm going to take a look at financial assistance. And I'm going to see, is there anything here or anything anywhere else on the application that indicates to me that she may deserve an extra point? And if I qualify her as needing an extra point, again, just make sure you're noting it on the side there so that it can be reviewed. She does currently have financial aid, so I'm not going to give her another point for that. So now she has just 3 points there. And then I'm fully done scoring her. I'm going to mark my initials and then I'm going to give her a total, add up her total points. While I'm adding that up, does anybody have questions?
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question, or
Yes.
you just did it. So on the points, you add in 3.62 for the GPA instead of just 1. You add the total score.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So the total score is everything, every box added up together there on the side. And the sheet isn't going to total it for you. So you do have to go through and add it yourself. And then I'm done with Nicole Armijo, and I would do the exact same thing for every single person on my list. Does everybody feel comfortable, confident? Any questions? You can put them in the chat or you can unmute yourself. Okay, well, on that note, that was very short little training there. I will be sending out an email with this video training attached. And then next week, I will be sending everybody their score sheets so you know who you're judging. That will go out Wednesday afternoon, roughly. And then everyone, and this will be in the email, everybody will get, everybody will have until March 12th to complete and send those back. And of course, you can reach out via email or any other means. In the meantime, if you have questions, concerns, etc. Any other questions before we go? Okay. Oh, was that a question?
Yeah, I put it in the chat. I was told I was an alternate and just wanted to know if there were any needs for me to judge at this point that you know of. My name's Will Oliver.
Okay, Will. So I am just noticing that for some reason I couldn't see the chat box. So now I'm seeing that there were actually some chats going on. So I'll make sure to answer all those via email if we don't get to anything today, but or to those today. But I don't believe that there is going to be a need for the alternates at this time. But if for some reason we have no response from somebody that we get a score sheet out to, then that's at that time is when I would call on the alternates and I would send you those that person's score sheet. Okay, perfect. Anything else? Anything that maybe you put in the chat and I didn't get to? Yeah, and everybody's kind of weighing in on the employment thing. I totally agree. I misled y'all with that. She is employed.
There was a question in the beginning on the chat from, I think, Kim. Are there any conflicts of interest which our students list? Not that I have it, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you do have a conflict of interest with someone, and we're doing our best to make sure that you're not receiving a student who you may have a conflict of interest with. But if you pull up your list and you realize that you know this person and for some reason, just reply to me via email and I'll make sure that I switch that around. And Will, that might be another reason why alternates are called on. If there's a lot of people who are have conflict of interest, there may be enough that we just create a new judging sheet.